Good evening, I'm Jake Ward, coming to you from the NBC News Bureau in San Francisco. Here are some of the stories we are following now tonight. Air travel chaos. All domestic flight departures screeched to a halt this morning, causing a domino effect of delays. The latest on that FAA outage and how travelers are coping at this hour.
The first flight was at 7 o'clock. They canceled that, moved to the next one, then started delaying flights. But you can kind of see the writing on the wall that they weren't flying anything this morning.
Bracing for another storm. Parts of California are starting to dry out after devastating floods this week. But is the state ready for another storm system to hit?
And we started packing and getting ready, and we were looking out the window, and then we saw the bridge go. And when that bridge went, there's no way out.
FaceTime, police, stores, arenas, even your own phone may be using facial recognition software. But with its increased usage, are we putting too much trust in this technology? And the buzz on saving bees. New technology to vaccinate beehives and save the honeybee population.
These animals are really critical, they're really important, and we all rely on them, and we have to take care of them.
Flights are back in the air again tonight after a Federal Aviation Administration computer outage grounded all nationwide departures this morning. The outage caused more than 8,000 delays and cancellations within, into, or out of the country. The FAA says their preliminary findings trace the outage to a damaged database, and that was in their Air Mission program, which sends real-time safety alerts to pilots. A short time ago, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg issued a statement on Twitter saying right now there is no evidence of a cyber attack. Blaine Alexander joins us now from Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. Blaine, you're at the airport there. Tell us a little bit about how much the outage disrupted the airport and its passengers today.
You know what's interesting, Jake, when you kind of look at the number of delays, one, you look at the fact that this is the world's busiest airport, so when you talk about a ripple effect, you would certainly expect it to be felt here, and it has. The number of delays or so has hovered above 800 today when we talk about flights both in and out of Atlanta. But I think what's important to point out is that the average time for that delay has only been about 30 minutes. Now, certainly not to make light of that. That could be the difference between making or missing a connection. But when you think about the Southwest meltdown, a couple of weeks ago, for instance, people stranded for days. We're not seeing anything of that magnitude here. Still, when we have talked to people, they've told us that it has disrupted their plans to a great extent sometimes. Take a look.
Yes, canceled. We drove here anyway because we were halfway here. It's
we drove
about an hour away.
An hour away, on the phone and on the website, all at the same time, trying to figure out what to do. They were very nice when we got here, very pleasant. Got us on tonight at 7 o'clock. So what would that be, about an 8-hour delay?
And I think that what is important, what the airlines have been saying, really even what airports around the country have been telling people, if you're watching this and if you still have a flight to catch, make sure that you check your app, check your flight app. We all know that it can be difficult on a good day, Jake, to call an airline and actually get somebody on the phone. On a day like today, it could be next to impossible. So check your app and see how your flight is running through the rest of the night and into tomorrow.
Now, Blaine, we are, of course, hearing that this issue with the NOTAM system, that notification system, began yesterday. Tell us about that system and what seems to have gone wrong here.
Yeah, so this is something that we've been watching. A lot of people may not have actually even heard of it before today, but it's a very crucial system that essentially, if it's not up and running, planes can't get in the air. Sources tell NBC's Tom Costello, who has been covering this from the very beginning, that this system actually first started malfunctioning yesterday afternoon around 3:30. They switched to a backup system. They switched back to the regular system around midnight or so, but around 4:45 is when things really started going down. This is unprecedented. This is something that an expert tells NBC News in his decades of flight experience, he has never seen a situation where the system has gone down like this.
An unprecedented outage. NBC's Blaine Alexander for us in Atlanta. Thank you so much. Here to help us navigate the recent travel delays and cancellations is Katie Nastro. She's a travel expert with the company Going, formerly known as Scott's Cheaps Flights. Katie, thank you so much for being here. I want to ask you, between long security lines and delayed flights, it just feels like travel is not what it used to be. How should we navigate travel these days?
Sure. So I think, we have to remember that things can happen, controllable things as well as uncontrollable things like the weather, like, air traffic control being down. And while that might feel off the heels of a really hectic and pressured peak holiday season like we just saw and the Southwest meltdown, it can feel like everything is going wrong. But 9 out of 10 times systems operate, and sometimes when they are put to the test, things buckle. And this is really the first year that we've gone into where we're not feeling that pressure or that coming off of that lag that COVID really or the pandemic really had. People are looking to get back to their regularly scheduled programs when it comes to travel. So, we now need to take a look at our systems to make sure that everything is up to modern tech advances and is able to get them where they need to go in a timely manner. So eyes are definitely on the back end systems.
And speaking of staying up on the latest technology, right? Sometimes airlines or airports do not notify us of delays until after we have left our house. I'm wondering, how do you do it? How do you stay on top of possible delays or cancellations leading up to the flight?
Sure. The best thing that you can do is, kind of sign up for all types of communications. That means text, email, push notifications, any type of comms they offer, sign up, as annoying as that might be, as well as, checking social media channels. Airlines have done a great job at promoting and pushing communications through social channels because they know that people are on there, as well as, if a flight is delayed and you do get that notification, don't think that you can just sit at home and, take your time in getting to the airport. Unfortunately, they are working to get that flight back on schedule. So it can actually get pushed up back to its original time. So you don't want to be in that circumstance where you're then at home and have missed your flight completely because that time has changed. So stay up to date on all forms of communication that they offer.
And does TSA PreCheck make sense to you at this point? It feels like so many people are signing up for it. I can't imagine. There must be a point of diminishing returns, but is it a must-have in your view?
You know what? It's so funny because TSA PreCheck has been around for quite a while now, and people are always on the fence. But as a traveler myself, I would say go for it. The cost of it is only $78 over 5 years. And those lines, even if there is a line in TSA PreCheck, it is significantly less than a general security line. And you don't have to take out, your computer, take off your shoes. There are benefits to just being a pre-qualified pre-screened traveler. There is Clear as well, but there is a higher price tag on that service. So TSA PreCheck is never a bad idea when you're considering it, even if you don't travel super often.
Katie Nasser from Going, giving us the lay of the land in this strange, changed travel world. Katie, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Let's turn now to those deadly rainstorms inundating California, which have killed at least 17 people. That's a number that officials say could rise in the coming days. In Paso Robles, which sits along California's central coast, relentless rain has torn apart hillsides. Mudslides have covered roads, making them impassable. And the river there has swelled over its banks, as you can see right there. Parts of the area are literally unrecognizable. Also in San Luis Obispo County, search and rescue is underway for a missing 5-year-old boy named Kyle. Raging floodwaters pulled him from his mother's arms as she tried to save him. NBC4 Los Angeles spoke to that family today.
Currents were so strong that when I tried to hold his hands, my hand wrapped around the tree and then the current pulled him away from me.
Forecasters warn more storms are coming, and this could go on for another week. NBC News correspondent Marissa Parra joins us from a very wet Guerneville, California. It's about 90 minutes north of where I'm sitting here in San Francisco. Marissa, parts of California saw a break today, but it doesn't look like it where you are. What have you seen today?
Yeah, I mean, the rain has been relentless today, and thankfully in other parts of California, as you mentioned, they're finally getting that much needed break. But where we are, it has been raining all day since we've been here. And you may be familiar with the Russian River. That is the river that is right behind me. So if I step over this way, you might be able to see just how high the water level is. Those signs behind me completely, I mean, you can't even see the bottom half of it. You can normally walk up to it. This is supposed to be a beach area. Now, this is an area that is known to flood. And so what they did is they did evacuate this part of it. They had a trailer park over here. We actually spoke with a woman who evacuated because her landlord told her she needed to. Take a listen to what she was telling us, how she's been panic-stricken ever since.
Thursday morning, my landlord came over. She's like, I need everybody to move. Basically, I was already situated. I had like all my clothes, my 2 cats ready to go. I guess the stressful part was more or less like where we're gonna go, like where is my home for now.
As we're getting more rain right now, where's your head?
It's still to some degree all over the place. Still a little bit stressed because even though it is looking better, it could get worse again.
So as you just heard, even though we're not seeing flooding in this specific area here, it's still causing stress for people who live around here, especially given the fact that they've been watching what's happening elsewhere in the state for the last 16 days. And California has been battered, right? It's not just the flood concerns. There's the concerns over mudslides, landslides. In this area in particular, they had those devastating wildfires over the past few years. So what that means is that leaves a lot of the terrain very vulnerable to mudslides and landslides because the vegetation was just completely wiped out. So they call that area burn scars. And so when you have burn scars, that means that it's going to be prone to that. So that is a big concern among people who live around here. In terms of elsewhere around the state, we have seen sinkholes opening up outside of Los Angeles. We saw those cars that fell through miraculously. There were no injuries from that, but we've seen highways shut down because of the landslides and the mudslides. And then you got to think about the power of the wind and the rain in combination. That has led to waterlogged trees just toppling over. And that itself can be deadly. We're just miles away from where a toddler was killed 1 week ago. Again, I can't remind you enough that this has been going on for so long. It's hard to believe that it was just a week ago when a toddler was killed, when a tree fell on the house that he was inside of. So this has been costly in every way. You look at the cost of infrastructure, the cost, the dollars and cents of it, but then the cost of lives. And so we know that this has just been something that's so hard for Californians to deal with. But unfortunately, we also know this is not over yet. While we're expecting a break maybe in this area tomorrow, we know that there is more rain on the way this weekend. So a lot of people in California, depending on where you are, I think collectively just waiting, holding their breath, hoping that the worst is behind us. But I think at the end of the day, they're just waiting to see this end as a whole.
Marissa,
Jacob.
Absolutely. And, we've heard certainly from emergency officials that they're just hoping that people make good choices, stay off the flooded roads like the one we're looking at behind you. All of the behavioral questions certainly playing into this as well. So NBC's Marissa Parra in Guerneville, California. Thank you so much. California Governor Gavin Newsom has warned of more damage to come. NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns joins us now with a forecast. Bill, Governor Newsom said California might not be in the clear until next week. What does he know and what do you know? What is coming for us here in the West?
Yeah, it's not what everyone wants to hear, right, Jake? I had to ask you, did your trench hold up today with the rain?
I went home last night after our broadcast, sandbagged my house a little bit further, and it did not make any difference at all. I'm bad at it, or there's just too much water, I think.
Yeah, I think there's just too much water. And at a certain point, everything gets saturated, and the water fits its way through the sandbag. So for you and everyone else, there's a lot of people going through those battles. And it's really today been from San Francisco northwards. That's where the majority of the rain was. That's what we expected. A lot of areas to the south have been drying out. We've got a couple of river flood warnings that are still left here. But it's been a pretty good day for Southern California and in Central California. From Monterey northwards, though, it's where we've had some of the rain. That's why we're down to 5 million people under flood watches. At one point, we were up to, 31 million, and then it was 20, and now we're down to 5. So here's the weather, and the white shows you the clouds, so we still have that storm over the entire state, but the rain shows up in the green. When you have just the green, that's light, that's not going to be enough to cause flooding. Usually you have to get in the yellows here or the reds to get significant flooding. And so from Ukiah all the way to Chico, this area here in the north central portions up toward Mount Mount Shasta. That's where we got the heavy stuff. That's where if we're going to get any flash flooding throughout the next couple hours into the overnight, that's where it's likely to occur in just periods of rain for the coastal sections. This is not a classic atmospheric river event bringing 3 to 6 inches of rain. This is 1 to 2 inches. And here's the additional rainfall. Everywhere in yellow is like 1 inch. So you notice even San Francisco only going to get another quarter to half an inch out of this. That's why we're not going to see flooding out of it. All the flooding will be to the north. So here's the timeline as we go into Thursday. And the good news is that all of the heavy precipitation is off the coast. So we get a break. Thursday's our break day, pretty much the entire state. Then on Friday, we start to see some of that rain returning, especially in the evening hours. That's when we'll get a period of rain through. But it does look like, Jake, the heaviest rainfall will be on Saturday. That's when we could have an atmospheric river right into central California. So that's the day to watch. Monday, a minor storm, and then I think we're in the clear.
Well, Bill, between now and Saturday when that next big storm hits, all of us will be hoping, obviously, for the water to recede as much as possible. So I want to know from you, where is this water flowing?
A lot of it has come down. I mean, I'd say, most of today has been a beneficial rain towards the drought. We've been able to handle it. All this water has been collecting, going into the reservoirs, or it's been running off into the rivers. And most of the rivers are now within their banks. It's not until you get these atmospheric river events like on Saturday that it rains hard enough that it overwhelms the flood protection systems. And that's when you begin to worry. That's why we're watching Saturday closely. I think we'll have flood watches go back up after they expire tomorrow. That'll be the day to watch. And then as we watch towards Monday, it looks like that storm's a little more to the south. That could be more targeted at Southern California. And Jake, after that, it looks like we call a ridge, high pressure, sunshine. That returns to the west middle of next week, and it looks to hold for a while.
Sunshine, all the things we moved to California for.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to that. Appreciate you letting us know how to pace ourselves with this 1-2 punch that's coming.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bill Cairns. After the break, more classified docs. Biden aides just found another batch of documents. Now, Republicans are calling for an investigation. Plus, the new GOP-led House is pushing to impose abortion restrictions. We have the details on 2 pieces of legislation Republicans are moving forward, but not all of them are on board.
There's a way to balance women's rights with the right to life, and we've got to find some common ground here. We need to be serious about it.
A new batch of classified documents associated with President Biden has been found, this time in a different location from where the first set was discovered. NBC News was the first to report the discovery of that second batch of classified documents. The documents were found by aides to President Biden. So far, neither the White House nor the Justice Department have commented on the documents found in a second location. This revelation comes after the Republicans gained a majority in the House of Representatives and seems almost certain to step up their scrutiny of the president. Just last night, new House Oversight Committee Chair Republican Congressman James Comer of Kentucky sent a letter to the White House counsel demanding an extensive information and documents regarding the first batch of classified papers in question. NBC's Justice correspondent Ken Delanian is here with more. Ken?
Good evening, Jake. What we're told happened here is that after that initial discovery of classified documents at the Penn Biden Center back 6 days before the November midterm elections, the Biden team began conducting a series of searches at other locations to make sure there weren't any other classified materials that had been inadvertently or otherwise packed after the Obama administration left in a box and were sitting out there. And what we were told is that they discovered at least one additional batch of classified documents, and they let the FBI and the Justice Department know about that. And this revelation alone doesn't really speak to some of the big questions in this case, which is really whether there needs to be a criminal investigation, what the motive was for this improper storage of classified information, how the documents got there. But it does sort of suggest that this has become a broader political headache for the Biden administration, suggests a sloppy process here after the Obama administration, where documents got to places they shouldn't have got. And now, in this building where I am, the Attorney General of the United States, Merrick Garland, has to decide whether to appoint a special counsel to further investigate this matter. The U.S. Attorney, as you know, in Chicago, a Trump appointee, has been reviewing the facts up until now, and we believe that they know a lot of the central issues here because they've been investigating for weeks, and we're told that they've briefed Garland on what they know about how the documents got to the Penn Biden Center and elsewhere, and who was responsible. And so at some point, Biden will announce to the world whether there will be a special counsel, whether there's a criminal investigation. And we may or may not at that point get to learn more about some of these fundamental questions. And in response to our new reporting, the White House has been suspiciously silent. It's something I don't understand. It's perplexing to me because they're portraying this as a mistake and saying that they did the right thing immediately and turned the documents over to the National Archives. Why not then rip the Band-Aid off and explain how this happened and get it all out to the public in one fell swoop rather than the drip, drip, drip of letting this story continue along and become a topic of conversation and something that a headache the Biden administration has to deal with. But right now we're waiting to see what Merrick Garland does in terms of this Justice Department investigation. Jake?
And NBC's Ken Delanian on this expanding investigation. Ken, thank you. The new Republican-controlled House just passed an anti-abortion measure called the Born Alive bill. It mandates healthcare providers give life-saving care to infants in the rare case that they are born after an attempted abortion. Federal law already requires healthcare providers to give medical services to any infant born at any gestational age. The new bill is one of 2 abortion measures passed by House Republicans today. But these efforts are unlikely to go any further, given that the Senate still has a Democratic majority. NBC's Sahil Kapoor has been following these developments closely for us.
Jake, the House voted today to pass 2 anti-abortion measures led by Republicans. One, a bill called the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act, passed by a vote of 220 to 210. It was supported by every Republican in the chamber. One Democrat, Congressman Henry Cuellar, voted with Republicans to pass the bill, and a second, Vicente Gonzalez, voted present in that vote. A second measure, a resolution condemning the recent attacks on, quote, pro-life facilities, groups, and churches, passed by a vote of 222 to 209. It got a few more Democrats. And this is part of the Republicans' opening salvo with this new House majority. They have a base full of social conservatives who want to advance abortion restrictions. This shows that they have a majority to advance narrow measures, in one case a resolution, in one case a piece of legislation, that would support anti-abortion causes. The first bill involved late-term abortion. Abortions conducted very late in the pregnancy, which some Republicans described as an attempt to protect children who were born alive as a result of botched abortions. Democrats blasted this effort as an attempt to weaponize the issue of abortion. And some Republicans voted yes, despite concerns that this was a bad idea politically. That includes Congresswoman Nancy Mace of South Carolina, who was outspoken in her opposition to going down this road. She said she's pro-life, that she supports this measure, but it must be coupled with compassionate measures, she says, to protect women and girls who are victims of rape and incest, and to address issues like access to OBGYNs, which she says, many counties in her state of South Carolina don't have any at all. Where this goes from here is unclear, except that these measures, the first bill in particular, is not going anywhere in the Democratic-controlled Senate, but where the issue goes from here is a little bit unclear. It all depends on how much support there is in the House Republican Conference to continue legislating on abortion after the party paid a pretty steep price in the 2022 midterms for assembling the Supreme Court majority that overturned Roe v. Wade. Jake?
Sahil Kapoor with the first moves in this new political landscape. Sahil, thank you. After the break, more of the top stories we are following this hour, including how Idaho students are feeling being back on campus after police arrested a murder suspect. Plus, nurses all over the country are burnt out after the pandemic. A look at the ongoing strike at 2 New York City hospitals and what workers are demanding. And we've talked about Flint, we've talked about Jackson. Now, unfortunately, we are talking about Baltimore. A look at the ongoing water issues in some Maryland communities. It's time now for some of the big headlines we're watching tonight. Legendary rock guitarist Jeff Beck is dead at age 78. A representative for Beck confirming he passed away after suddenly contracting bacterial meningitis. Often referred to as one of the greatest of all time, Beck was an 8-time Grammy winner and member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The Supreme Court is allowing a New York gun control law to stay in effect while legal challenges continue against it. The law in question bans firearms in many public places and strengthens permitting requirements for gun owners. This was passed in July after the Supreme Court threw out a previous provision that required New Yorkers to prove they have a unique need for self-defense if they want to carry a handgun. The Biden administration has extended the COVID public health emergency once again. This comes as the highly transmissible Omicron variant XBB now accounts for over 70% of cases in the Northeast. The U.S. has renewed this emergency COVID declaration every 90 days since first implementing it in January of 2020. And a frightening scene in Paris today at one of the city's busiest commuter train stations. A man stabbed 6 people in an unprovoked knife attack during the morning rush hour. Within minutes, he was shot by police, and he's now hospitalized. So far, no specific motive is being suggested by authorities. In Illinois, a community remains under shelter-in-place orders after a fire broke out at a chemical plant. This happened in the town of LaSalle, about 80 miles southwest of Chicago. Around 9 a.m. this morning, a shipping container exploded, setting off a massive fire. Crews have since contained the flames, and no one was hurt. But police are urging residents to stay away from a green substance that was released as a result of the explosion. In New York City, thousands of nurses remain on strike while their union negotiates with hospital management. It's affecting patients at 2 hospitals in New York, one in Manhattan and one in the Bronx. The 2 sides met again today with no announced agreement. Nurses on the picket line say their workload is putting patients at risk.
We really don't want to be out here, but we're out here to prove to our management team that we need safe staffing.
It's very unsafe, and we're also about to go up orientation, and we're, new to the ED, so it's really concerning for us if we're going to be on this unit with this unsafe ratio.
If we don't do this now, it's just going to keep getting worse. So it's best to just fight now, make a change so that this doesn't have to keep happening.
It's been really emotional, but we know that we have to do this for the future of our profession.
This, of course, echoes the same kind of sentiments we're hearing from nurses all over the country. Unsafe working conditions, low pay, minimal staffing, the list goes on. And it could have serious consequences when it comes to burnout. According to a survey from McKinsey, almost 1 in 3 nurses say they want to, quote, leave their current position. Even more worrying, young nurses are more likely to quit than their older, more tenured coworkers. NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard is with me now. Vaughn, tell us, what are the main sticking points between the union and hospital officials at this hour?
Right. Hospital officials, Jake, have said that, look, we've come to the table guaranteeing compensation increases for nurses across the board. But they're on the picket line with those nurses over the last 2 days here in New York, and they were clear that it is not about compensation for them. It is about getting the guarantees that the staffing shortages that they are currently facing will be addressed, and that is built into any sort of a deal and contract agreement that the 2 sides were to come forward with, that there would be an enforceable agreement to address that nursing shortage here. When you are talking about, the number of nurses from oncology units to the labor and delivery units to emergency room, at both of these 2 hospitals, there are hundreds of nursing slots that are not presently filled. And there's a lot of pushback from these nurses saying that, look, if you look nationally, there are right now more than 1 million licensed nurses who are currently not employed. And the arguments you hear, not only here in New York, but from nurses across the country, is that in large part that is because of the conditions in which they are forced to work under in the lengths of these hours. So that is really the sticking point that they want guaranteed from these hospitals, that they will bring on additional backups so that the conditions in which they are working in are not what they have been over these last years.
Vaughn, of course, these are the people who were on the very front lines of the pandemic. They're as tough as they come. I guess my question is, how far do you think they are willing to go in this fight?
Right. They were insisting to me, look, this was not an easy decision. There were mothers in there with newborn children in the NICU departments here. You're talking about in the oncology departments, cancer patients here. There are folks who are coming in from the neighborhoods with emergencies into the emergency department that are being rerouted to further medical facilities. And again, these nurses insist they're the ones that understand this better than anybody because they're the ones that see it on a daily basis, not the administrators here. And so when you're looking at over the course of the last year, there were were at least 18 different strikes around the country from nurses. And there was one even just a year ago in Massachusetts that went on for 301 days. There were 700 nurses at this particular Massachusetts hospital that went to the picket line. Ultimately, they got guarantees from their hospitals addressing many of these same questions that we are now seeing the nurses here in New York go on the picket line for. Ultimately, it was the current labor secretary, who is a former Boston mayor, who came in to help be an arbiter as part of those negotiations and help get a deal here. But you have seen, again, this is beyond New York here. This is a national story. Whereas you address it from the pandemic, you know, the nurses were telling me we're tired of just being the pandemic heroes who get applause for our work now. Now is the time to address not only the shortages that they're facing now, but you heard from those two women that I talked to who are now just becoming nurses. They said that, you know, they're hearing about a patient to nurse ratios of 18 to 1, and it gives them second guess about this as a career path and the extent to which they could enter this career field and the longevity in it. And that is why they said it needs to be addressed now, and that is why they are picket line out here in these cold conditions in the heart of winter.
Big questions about the sustainability of the profession. It's truly a national story, as you mentioned. Vaughn Hilliard, thank you so much.
Thanks, my friend.
Students at the University of Idaho are back to class for the first time since a suspect was arrested for murdering 4 students. The spring semester is now underway. Students tell NBC they are coming with their standard school supplies and pepper spray. All this happening as the suspect prepares to appear in court again tomorrow. And joining us now is NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson, live from Moscow, Idaho. Steve, tell us a little bit about how students are feeling. What precautions are they now taking that they perhaps didn't before the murders?
Well, Jacob, as you might imagine, it's a mixed bag. So school supplies and pepper spray is about as eloquent and accurate as you could get. On one hand, I think they feel heartened and relieved, and maybe you could even say emboldened in some cases, that there is now a suspect in custody, that they are coming back to that. That is something that they haven't had for the 7 weeks leading up to now, essentially. But on the other hand, you could say that I think there is some hesitancy, and there is still this sense of vigilance on campus, and that in many ways may not ever be the same, or at least not in the short or long term for this student body and really for this town. So yes, that has led to a lot of students telling us that they've bought pepper spray, that they are still walking in pairs, that they're taking self-defense classes. And so I spoke to some of the students today just about what the general mood is coming back to a campus after everything that has happened. Listen to this.
I'm a little worried about the safety here.
I think we need a proper sense of justice. You know, someone needs to be convicted and put in prison for these heinous acts. I think that would go a long way for bringing peace back to the community.
And that same mixed bag, that same call for justice, not just here at the University of Idaho, but also at nearby Washington State University, where, of course, the suspect, Koberger, was taking classes even weeks after the crime was committed. Both of these campuses really hurting now. This whole area going to take some time to heal. And part of that may be the legal and justice process. Jacob?
And Steve, remind us what is next for that suspect and his court date tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow morning it is a status hearing, which is essentially, you know, as cursory maybe as you could get. We're going to learn probably more about the dates that could be important, a possible arraignment, a possible pretrial, possible preliminary hearing, the possibility that we may be looking at a trial, although, of course, we won't know yet until he enters a plea. So right now, this is more about the curve of what's going to happen next. We should learn more about that, but it may be more important to talk about the character work that's going to happen, because Koberger will be in person in court. We may be seeing some of the family members of the victims in court as well, and some of the attorneys may be giving statements as well. So much more to come, and a lot of that will be set by what happens tomorrow morning. Jacob?
Steve Patterson, always with a sharp eye and tremendous sensitivity for these stories. Thank you so much. For months, we have reported extensively on the water crisis in Jackson, Mississippi, but it is far from the only American city where aging infrastructure is raising safety concerns. Yami Schalzendor takes us to Baltimore, where many families do not trust the water coming from their taps.
For Baltimore resident Gloria Johnson, getting drinking water for her family is an ordeal.
I'm not trusting the water. I'm not comfortable with using it.
I'm not comfortable with them drinking it.
Every month, the mother of two buys bottled water and boils gallons from the tap for her family to drink, cook, and brush their teeth.
It's frustrating because we got to keep up with this every single day on a daily basis.
That's because even though Baltimore's drinking water meets federal safety standards, according to the city's annual water quality reports, the water coming out of her tap is sometimes brown, which could be a sign iron is leaching from aging pipes. Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Michael Regan says Baltimore is one of countless communities across the U.S. grappling with aging water infrastructure as federal investment dwindled. Some experiencing water crises, like Flint, Michigan, Jackson, Mississippi, and rural West Virginia.
Why has the U.S. government not done more, invested more in water infrastructure across this country?
You know, there are a lot of needs in this country. Unfortunately, we have waited too long. And there are certain populations in this country, Black and brown communities, tribal communities, low-income communities, that are seeing the worst aspects of this disinvestment.
In Baltimore, it's led to problems like sewer backups and skyrocketing water bills because utilities put repair costs on consumers. And last September, routine testing discovered E. coli in the drinking water at 3 locations in West Baltimore, a predominantly Black area, leading to a boil water advisory. In a hearing, the Department of Public Works said infrastructure failures were to blame.
It was a result of aging infrastructure.
But Matthew Garbarg, who oversees Baltimore's major infrastructure projects, says it's a multifaceted problem.
So are you saying what you're saying and what city officials saying are in line? They were sort of definitive in that hearing and saying aging infrastructure definitely contributed to it.
It is definitely something that is affecting our whole system. Whether that particular case was caused by the aging infrastructure, it's really hard to tell.
We've also talked to some Baltimore residents who say when they open up their tap water, it's brown. What's your message to those people?
That is a very, very concerning thing to see. The brown is a concentration of the iron. It technically is perfectly safe to consume. It's not attractive, and if you wash clothes with it, it will stain your clothes. So we understand that. Our message is call us. No one in our system should have to go out and buy bottled water.
Last year, Maryland received $144 million from the EPA as part of the bipartisan infrastructure law, which set aside about $50 billion for drinking and wastewater improvements.
How much do you need the federal government to be a partner?
We need them desperately. We need to have our local, our state, and our federal partners all aligned.
Still, the $50 billion is not nearly enough. By the EPA's own estimates, the nation's drinking and wastewater infrastructure will require more than $744 billion over 20 years just to meet existing health and environmental standards.
The resources that we have from Bill are just a shot in the arm. There's a huge resource gap here.
A gap that people here are left trying to fill themselves.
We are really struggling. We're crying out for help.
Help the EPA says it's working to provide.
Water systems have been failing our communities. It's time for government to step up, and that's what we're doing.
As a mom, all I can do is be the best I can be.
Our thanks to Yumish Alcindor for that one. With high inflation, Americans are looking to save money just about anywhere they can. NBC's Dr. Akshay Sayal met one woman who's taking some pretty extraordinary steps to lower her prescription drug costs. Have a look.
Christine Schackinger, who's battling cancer, diabetes, and other medical issues, can't survive without her medication.
I have 12 I take every day, some more than once a day.
Lately, trying to get her new diabetes medication isn't a simple trip to the local Las Vegas pharmacy.
You're going to Mexico to get medications that your doctor says you need.
Yes.
The jump in price upset her.
She said it was $585, and I was like, what do you mean $585? It's covered. And she's like, no, they only cover $60.
For her, the cost savings in Mexico, huge.
Down there, it's $50 to $60 a month.
Do you think that's sustainable?
I don't have an option to get it any other way. I can't afford on top of the $1,200 to $1,500 a month I pay now.
About 3 in 10 Americans say they don't take their medications as prescribed because of cost. Stacy Dusetsina, a health policy professor at Vanderbilt, coined the term pharmacoequity.
Everyone should have equal access
to the best treatments and the treatments that they need.
She says insurance coverage is a key factor in fair prescription drug pricing.
We know that people with lower wage jobs often have health insurance that requires them to pay a lot more upfront before their health insurance kicks in.
But the issue goes beyond insurance coverage. These 10 drugs had substantial price increases in 2021. For 7 of the drugs, they didn't find clinical evidence of increased efficacy to justify the increase, according to the independent nonprofit Institute for Clinical and Economic Review. And while there's multiple variables in drug pricing, it cost Americans an additional $1.2 billion in annual drug spending that year. NBC News reached out to the companies making these drugs for comment. Novartis responding, quote, "We take a value-based approach to pricing, which considers benefit to patients, caregivers, employers, the health system, and society." Amgen saying, quote, "believes that an incorrect assessment of net price increases and other methodological shortcomings led the Institute for Clinical and Economic Review to include Prolia." And Janssen responding, quote, "ICER applies a flawed methodology and represents the perspective of insurance companies, not patients." The pharmaceutical industry undergoing scrutiny over pricing in 2021 when a House Oversight and Reform Committee report found, quote, "without price hikes on certain drugs, companies would fail to meet revenue targets and top executives would have foregone millions of dollars in additional compensation." Legislators say there might be relief around the corner. The Independent Drug Value Assessment Act introduced to, quote, "ensure lower drug prices and greater transparency for patients and consumers." While it primarily targets Medicare recipients,
this is going to be very beneficial for people who are taking many drugs or who are taking a couple of expensive drugs. They're going to see a lot of financial relief.
For Schackinger, who isn't on Medicare, it doesn't go far enough.
It's just very difficult. Your whole life is based around your illnesses. Without the medications, for my heart alone, I would have died years ago.
And as she gets older, the fight to maintain her health within her monthly budget continues.
Dr. Akshay Sayal reporting. Facial recognition is being used by more and more companies and even police departments. But how much should we really be relying on it? Well, after the break, a look at the advantages and the serious, unforeseen consequences of that technology. Stay with us. Technological advances have already revolutionized the way that law enforcement solves crimes, but it is far from perfect. Case in point, well, authorities in Louisiana recently used facial recognition software to tie a New Orleans robbery to a 28-year-old black man in Georgia. That man spent almost a week in prison, but it turns out they got the wrong guy. And it's sadly not the first time facial recognition software has led to a false arrest. Axios editor Alex Fitzpatrick recently wrote about some of these problems in a piece titled "Facial Recognition's Alarming Pitfalls," and he is with us now. Alex, I want to begin by playing you a bit of sound from 2020. That's when we interviewed a man in Michigan who had the exact same thing happen to him. I believe he may have been the very first person misidentified in this way. Have a listen to what he said.
I looked at the paper and it honestly made me chuckle. I said, no, that's not me. So I picked that one up sarcastically and put it to my face. And I said, I hope you don't think all black people look alike. And dropped it back on the table. And he flipped the third piece of paper, irritated, and said, so I guess the computer got it wrong.
Based on your reporting, Alex, it sounds as if he is far from the last person to have this happen to. I mean, how is facial recognition misidentifying black and brown communities as consistently as it is? How deep does this problem go?
Yeah, there have been a handful of cases where this has happened. I think at least 3 or 4 at this point, according to my research, and it could be more than that. And it's a problem that's going to keep happening. Basically, the issue at hand here is that there's a lot of trust given to these systems that have issues and are not foolproof. But the users of these systems are not doing enough to check the results of their output.
And as I understand it, Alex, there is a new development in this technology. It's getting applied to other parts of the body. The University of Georgia, as I understand it, has a sort of ear recognition system that'll use the specific contours of your ear to identify you. I know that China for a long time has been working on gait recognition, right? Recognizing you by the rhythm of how you walk. It all feels pretty dystopian to me. It certainly seems like a way of identifying people, even if they're wearing sunglasses and a mask. You know, how much more of this are we likely to see? How fast is it moving?
It's moving really fast, and it's one of the technologies moving too fast for regulation to keep up. Some states and jurisdictions, cities, towns, are making efforts to sort of curtail the use of facial recognition. Massachusetts, for instance, has really strong rules against it. A town in South Orange, New Jersey, just passed laws or just decided that they're not going to use facial recognition in their street security cameras. So there are some people out there who are saying, no, this just doesn't work for us. This is an overreach in terms of privacy, and the technology is too faulty to be trusted at the moment. But there are, the researchers and others are making big steps in terms of just developing this technology's ability to identify or try to identify people based on, like you said, the shape of their ears, the shape of their gait, and other features about them.
And Alex, does it seem to you that there is a middle ground here? We have municipalities outright banning it, like the ones you mentioned. I live in Oakland, California. They've banned it as well. And then you have technology companies. Technologists also often say, I just make this thing and it's up to elected officials to figure out how they are used. Do you think that baked into the software there is a way to somehow straddle the line between our need for civil liberties and the police desire to make investigation as convenient as possible?
I think there certainly is. I think it's going to require very thoughtful approaches from both sides of that equation. I think on the technology side and on the company side, you need a diverse group of engineers who could point to issues. For instance, one of the big problems with this software is that it's very bad or often bad at identifying black faces in particular and non-white faces in general. And that's really, I think, a reflection of the kind of people who are at these companies and the kind of people who are working at these companies. And it's about the data set that these programs are based on needs to be more diverse. That being said, on the other side, elected officials, law enforcement need to be much more thoughtful about how this technology is used and also its potential pitfalls, and need to double check the results of the work and not just trust, oh, this system or this computer said this is a match, so I'm going to go ahead and assume that yes, it is, rather than more thoroughly checking that this is an absolute match or approaching the situation as if maybe this isn't a match.
Alex Fitzpatrick from Axios looking at the seductive potential of perhaps a too convenient piece of investigative technology. Alex, thank you so much. Now, whatever you ate for dinner tonight, there is a good chance it exists because of bees. A third of the food we eat relies on pollination, and luckily, a new vaccine is hoping to save bee populations from dying. That is next in our feature report.
We don't see the effect. We just see the pumpkin in the grocery store or at the farmer's market. There would not be a single almond if it wasn't for millions of beehives that are carried into the California almond orchards every year.
Modern society has really come to depend on vaccines. Vaccines for COVID, vaccines for the flu, and now, perhaps, a vaccine for bees. Honeybees are among the world's most important pollinators, but they are too susceptible to diseases. Now, USDA approval of the first honeybee vaccine has beekeepers extremely hopeful. But it's not just them that should be excited. We all need these creatures to keep doing what they do best.
Bees. They may bug you during the summer, but we desperately need these creatures. They are crucial to pollinating crops. How crucial? 1 out of every 3 bites of food you eat exists because of pollination. That's fresh produce, nuts, and, yes, your cup of coffee. Think about it this way. Honeybees alone pollinate more than 100 types of fruits and vegetables. But a bacterial disease called American foul brood is now destroying bee colonies at alarming rates. Annette Kleiser, CEO of Dateline Animal Health, says something must be done.
It's found in approximately 50% of beehives, that's the estimate, around the world. So it can lay dormant for many, many decades. And all of a sudden, if there's another stressor, if there's anything else that happens, it's like we know that from us, we can all of a sudden get sick. And that happens also to the bees.
Currently, there is no cure for this disease. Once foul brood is detected, beekeepers have to destroy the hive or use antibiotics, which can have some nasty side effects.
That comes with many, many problems: antibiotic resistance, contamination of honey. It weakens the microbiome of the honeybees. They can get other diseases because their immune system is compromised.
But over the last few years, Annette and her team have developed a promising vaccine that the U.S. Department of Agriculture just conditionally approved.
We take the disease-forming bug, kill it, we inactivate it. We put it in something that is called queen candy. It's a sugar paste that is given to the queen. So if she's vaccinated, she passes that vaccine on to all the eggs that she lays, and the entire colony is then protected.
Currently, Dateline is seeking state-by-state approval for the vaccine, focusing on the large breeding areas like California and states along the Gulf Coast. And this is not just important for commercial beekeepers. This vaccine could be an absolute game changer for, well, all of us.
These animals are really critical, they're really important, and we all rely on them, and we have to take care of them. It's a real existential survival critical issue for everybody around the world.
That does it for us. I'm Jake Ward for Now Tonight. Stay with us. The news continues right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.